Welcome to Before Phones, where the dinosaurs roam. Welcome to Before Phones. It was a time we need to remind, we need to refine. Before phones, where the dinosaurs roam. Well, welcome everyone back to another edition of Before Phones, where the dinosaurs roam. And this is the podcast. I'm your host, Bob. And we're trying to get to the bottom of what the question. I mean, it's the number one question out there in the country, the nation, and maybe the history of civilization. What did we do before phones? And when did that era begin? And so we're going back in time. We're going back deep in time to the before phone era, where the dinosaurs roam. And with us today, we have one of those dinosaurs. His name is Steve. He is an expert and lived most of his life in the BP era, epoch, before phones. So we're really fortunate to have him here today. And let's just take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with our guest, Steve. Hey, well, welcome, Steve. Thanks. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me here, Bob.
Yeah. So, want to get right down to it. I understand that you spent a great deal of your time, of your life, in the before phones era, and just want to throw it right at you. What was it like? Tell the audience.
It was kind of nice not being chained to some device that I felt like I had to look at all the time. Being able to go for walks and just go places without people being able to contact me at any moment.
So
freeing.
Yeah, we think of a phone as it's kind of a paradox. We think of the phone as being in the spirit of driving your first car, that was kind of opened up your eyes to, it was a freedom machine. And the phones, I think, in the new generation is this freedom machine for kids that they can kind of, but in a weird way, it keeps them at home, unlike a car that would transport you. I mean, when I was a kid, there were all you could do in the afternoon is watch soap operas. You wanted to get out of the house. So the car or your vehicle, your first vehicle, that was, a revelation. It was a freedom machine. But now, the opposite trend's occurring. Kids want to stay around the house because they have the Wi-Fi, but the phones are kind of a freedom machine, but as you describe it, they kind of chain you down too. And I think it's hard and we all quickly forgot what we lost, and I think that's why we're having you on as a guest. You went through a great span of phonelessness-ish.
Say that 3 times fast.
Yeah. So, well, what else? I mean, so everyone knows, Steve served overseas in the Peace Corps, and how could you possibly have done that without a phone? Or did you have a phone?
No, of course not. In 2 years, I never used a phone. It was all letters, handwritten.
Not even one on a wall.
Not even one on a wall. Nope. The only time I ever had any conversation with the U.S. was through telex about a credit card problem, which meant that you spoke to a telex operator in French who translated or telexed it to Arizona, where they translated it to English, answered the question, and then telexed back in French. The telex operator in in Togo could then tell you in French what they had said in English in Arizona.
That sounds so primitive. So where were you when you served over?
Niger.
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 So that sounds like so it's amazing now. Everybody has cell phones. I think across the world, it's like when electricity came through, everybody in rural areas got hooked up, and I think areas that were not connected with landlines, they now have phones, and people have abandoned their landlines. But it's probably good you didn't have a phone, because you would have just been texting the whole time and not doing the work you were there to do. And
Quite possibly.
Maybe, and I think that's something the audience, the before phone era is, that's one of the things that maybe they can't relate to is, what did we lose? And you had full utility of your hands that you could, do things instead of, thumbing away at texting. Or maybe texting would have, that would have been, probably not. Well, so what else from the, what's a good, so for the pre-phone, for the pre-phone period, before phones, where the dinosaurs roam, you are a dinosaur, so it's just fascinating to be able to talk to you. You were born without a phone, and that's just, I don't even think they can do that now. So, but I think we, at some point we've entered the after phone era, and we kind of lost some things, and we can't imagine life without a phone now. And it was a slippery slope, but we're now in the AP era, and before phones, BP. So we kind of made a, we've all adopted these full scale. We didn't question it. It's kind of like a Faustian bargain. We gave up something for that maybe had a spiritual or ethical quality, and kind of didn't think twice about giving that up or those things up for this kind of secular, material gain. Or it's not even a material gain, but I think we did lose things that we kind of thought it was a free lunch, but I think we paid and are paying in some way for it. So the Before Phones podcast, Where the Dinosaurs Roams, is trying to understand, what did we lose? And we had to start with a dinosaur. And I did research, and you were identified as
a dinosaur.
As a dinosaur, and so I think, what else? You have a phone today. What do you
I have
enjoy
two
about
phones
the phone?
today.
3 phones.
2 phones.
2 phones.
Or 2 smartphones, yes. I have a work phone and I have a personal phone.
So, being a dinosaur, using a phone, what do you enjoy about the phone that you maybe are glad you have it now? What would you miss if you went back into the before phone era?
What would I miss? Short term or long term? Short term, I would miss being able to look up things immediately and have a small library or newsstand at my fingertips. Maybe being able to contact my daughter.
And you're already a smart guy, but it makes
doesn't make you smarter. It just provides data that most of us use for a one-time. This is what that means.
Maybe it makes you think you're smarter than you are. Yeah.
Maybe it makes you less smart because you don't have to remember anymore.
Yeah. I think we're onto something here. So
all you have to do is look it up.
So you said short term. How about
long term? It does allow me to keep in touch with my daughter a little bit better, but only because I text her.
Well, that's a good point. I think in some ways it does help us communicate. I mean, obviously they're the ultimate communication machine, and you're liberated from having to be at the cord or, sending a telegraph or whatever. So I think they are the advantages that we miss. So just in closing here, what is it, when you think back to before phones, where the dinosaurs roam, what is it how have you changed? How were you different then than you are now? And what's something maybe you miss from that? So you could tell the audience here, hey, this is a characteristic of me that I really kind of miss and aspire to get back to, consciously in the after phone era, but, bring that before phone, spirit that I kind of, unwittingly lost back. Is there anything? Or are you in complete balance with your phone? I mean, it seems like phones take people's lives over.
Oh, now when I leave the house, my first instinct is to grab the phone so people can get in touch with me if they need to, or so I can get in touch with people if they need to. And it's just a chain that you drag along with you. It's kind of nice, it's freeing to just leave the house and know that if somebody's got a message or needs to get in touch with you, they will later. Or it's not that important.
So maybe they're just the best invention ever. So I can't figure out if phones are the best invention ever, or if we left something behind, and I'm thinking, or we're thinking nostalgically about this cryptic before phone epoch, and maybe it's just much better now than it was before. Sometimes we think back nostalgically, but it's then we go back and we're like, oh, this is miserable. Where's my phone? But it is a cryptic era. I think it's a cryptic era trying to figure out. And I think we lost and left things behind, and I think this is what this podcast is about. That's why it's fascinating talking to you, a dinosaur that lived through the period. And your stories are, quite frankly, fascinating.
Well, thank you.
So in closing, is there that one thing you've missed? What is it that you would like to bring back with you and reclaim that you had and possessed and was now in retrospect you're like, oh, I missed that?
The ability to sit quietly without having to look at something in your hand at all times.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of the same way. I miss those good old days of just turning on a lamp and immersing myself in a book. And it was a paper book, and, there was no other distractions. And I think that's right. It's kind of an ability to go kind of into deep space.
Right.
And, yeah. So, this has been really good. I think, I was thinking you'd be a one-time guest and you'd kind of, have a couple things and that would be it. But I think we raised a couple. I think you'll be a regular. I'm going to bring you back as a regular, if that's okay. So always have your phone with you. And we'll do this again.
Okay, well, thank you, Bob. It's been nice to be here.
Thanks so much, Steve. Okay, talk to you soon.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, there you have it, folks. I think, wow, what a great guest Steve was. And he truly is an expert from the before phones era where the dinosaurs roam. And he's probably a dinosaur. A dinosaur who knows how to use a phone now, but I think can also, go before he can kind of turn up the BP notch and just forget that he even has a phone. So that's I think that's what makes Steve such a special person, or in part. So thank you, Steve, so much for being here. That was insightful. Wow, some of the Faustian bargain. That's food for thought. And what did we lose? And I think that's going to be the topic of the next episode of Before Phones, where the dinosaurs roam. So thank you so much for tuning in. I know all you everyone out there is real busy, so we appreciate all the time and all the fan mail. You know, if you want to send fan mail, you can. So, well, thank you so much, and we'll be back in the next episode. In the meanwhile, you know, put down your phone and try to turn into a dinosaur. That's a bad catchphrase. We're still working on the catchphrase, so we'll see you soon. Welcome to Before Phones, where the dinosaurs roam. Welcome to Before Phones. It was a time we need to remind, we need to refine. Before phones, where the dinosaurs roam. Well, welcome everyone to Before Phones, where the dinosaurs roam. Yes, that's that ancient geologic period that lasted for some 4 billion years before phones.